Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems. Hey, I'm Tom Gozzi. This week on Hot and Cold, we have an attic to do something with, and we have a lot of stuff here. So I think we'll take the stuff, use it in the attic, and do something. That'd make a good TV show. Okay, so here we are. This is an attic in my workspace, and as you can see, it is unfinished. And it's a big room. It's, I don't know, 500 square feet, something like that, and it's perfect for office space. We're kind of jammed up on office space. So, I mean, it's not atypical from a lot of home attics, but it is lacking in several ways. The first way it was lacking, was the fact that we didn't have windows here. This was a big dark room. I don't know why there were never windows that were put in, but we've dropped a couple of windows in last week, which is always exciting. We didn't videotape that because my hanging out the, well, it would have been good TV actually, but it was not something I cared to share with you. So anyway, we dropped 2 windows in. These were actually leftover windows from a local lumber yard. They had an order that was canceled, and I got them for a really good price. And you may find this hard to believe, but I hadn't planned it this way. They're 30.5 inches wide by 57 inches long, and they dropped right in between. I did not have to put vertical studs in. This space was almost perfect. I just had a, and we went right up to the plate, so we only had to put a sill across here. You'll notice here, you probably can't see it real well because the sun is shining through, but there's cluster flies that are appearing inside because there are holes in this whole building, hence the insulation project, and they will die soon. Just wanted to share that. So this building was done in the 70s, and it was done to 70s standards more or less. And what we have is 6 inches of fiberglass going right out to the eave. We got 6 inches overhead, all the way around. And you know, I'm not a big fan of fiberglass. I never use it. I don't like to use it. Matter of fact, just messing around with those windows, I got itchy. I don't like being itchy. I itch enough without fiberglass, so it's here though. It's already on site, it's already being used, so let's continue to use it. We can make it work good. The problem with fiberglass is you got a lot of gaps here, you know, it's just kind of stuffed in. There's always going to be a hole, like right here. You see there's the rafters kind of join here. See this hole? I just put my finger right up and touch the roof deck, right up there. So that's not good. The other thing is, let me just put the tape measure on this, make sure. There we go. Yep, it goes all the way up. It is full 6 inches, so it's not compressed. So we've got R19 here. A sloppy R19, a drafty R19, warm air travels right through this and hits the deck, and that can create issues. So we want to deal with this. But being as who I am, I want this tighter. And that's where the pile of foam comes in. This is foam. This is basically the same as the foil face foam you get at any lumber yard. It just happens to be paper faced. This is stuff that we use for making tanks, and we're not using this dimension anymore, so I was able to bring quite a bit up here. We've got, maybe 50 4x8 sheets worth. These are 2x8 sheets. And so we did some arithmetic, measured the surface area we have here, and the thermal envelope that we're dealing with, the thermal envelope being the place that's going to lose heat, I'm going to forget about out here for the time being, would be from here up to here where there's no insulation currently, although it's insulated out here. Then across the slopey part of the ceiling here, which is just 6 inches deep, across the top where the flat part of the ceiling is, which is 6 inches, but we can get more up there because it's like a regular attic, down the other side to do the same thing. And then we also add in this gable end wall. The whole surface that we have that loses heat here is about 1,100 square feet. As it turns out, we have enough insulation here to put 2 inches of foam up over everything, and that's what we're going to do. Before we do that, though, we need to deal with a couple of logistical concerns. One is, how do we do it? How do we want to do this to make it the most effective? Where it's going to be office space, we have to look at the wiring. Right now, we have a great opportunity to access all the wiring. It's right here. And most of it is promising. It seems to be fairly well done. There's some stuff that is a little funky. This is nailed on the face of the studs here, goes up overhead, went to a box over here where there was a switch that went over here to an outside light. We're going to take that out, I think. If we want to put an outside light in, we can always redo it and go overhead and go out the wall, but I don't think we're going to put a light up here. I think we're going to eliminate that. But we do want to get some outlets in this wall as well. I think roughly code is having an outlet about every, well, I'm not even going to quote code because I'm not going to swear that I know anything about it, but my code is I want an outlet at least every 6 feet. Especially in an office, I don't want extension cords going all over the place. And electrical outlets don't cost a lot of money, even if you have an electrician put them in. And especially in this situation, there's no drywall up, there's no foam up. We're just looking at bare studs pretty much. We do have to move some fiberglass to do this wall, but even so, that's going to be pretty simple. Let me snake my wire around here. A couple things I want to point out. We're looking at wiring. You'll notice here, the wire goes right through the middle of the stud. Anytime you run wiring, you need to be at least 1.5 inches away from the surface. And the idea here is that when somebody goes to put drywall on this stud, we do not want to hit the wire. It happens. We don't want to have it happen. It's dangerous if it happens. So we could actually run it in the back, I guess, if we wanted to, but we'll go and make sure that everything we run is at least 1.5 inches deep, and if not further, behind the surface. And we're going to have 2 inches of foam on top of this, so that will even push us out further before we put sheetrock on. So, but still, we want to maintain that 1.5 inch thickness or depth to protect the wiring from any fasteners. We don't have any plumbing going in up here. That's good. We don't have to worry about that. There's bathroom facilities in other parts of the building. As I said, overhead, we need to deal with additional insulation, and this is the easy part. This is accessible from out in the hallway. We can get up in over here, and once we put foam up, we'll probably put another 6 inches of cellulose on top, maybe a little more, because it's easy to do, and it will tighten up all the gaps. I mean, this, these gaps here, this is kind of sagging a bit. This has been in 30 years. When we put the foam up, we're going to be able to push all the foam, all the fiberglass back up and support it properly. But the foam is going to do two things for us. One, it's going to add insulation. It'll actually almost double the insulation value we have here, but it'll also make the fiberglass work the way it's supposed to work. One thing that's interesting about fiberglass is that in the state it's in now, if this was installed nice and snug and there was a vapor barrier and everything was done absolutely the way the manufacturer requests it to be done, we'd still have an issue. And that is that this facer, this craft paper facer, is not really a good air barrier. We've got all these gaps, or even if this was stapled, like I say, and overlapped, we have a seam here that is not very tight. If we put polyethylene over that, we do make it tighter, but polyethylene gets punctured and it's not as high integrity as we'd like to see. So we're not going to put polyethylene up because this will amount to 2-inch thick polyethylene. And when we put the 2 layers up, you'll see this in a while, we'll caulk all the joints on the final layer, and that will become our moisture barrier. The other thing is overhead we've got this stuff. We've got old fluorescent fixtures with old ballasts, excuse me. We want to redo this and get into a different scheme for lighting the space. One of the catches right now, and I should have the lights on, we're taping a TV show, but one of the problems in a space like this, as it is it's dark. It was really dark without the windows. It's kind of strange to come up here and see daylight, but all the surfaces are kind of dark because of the facer. Even just putting sheetrock up and not painting it is going to brighten up the room significantly. And of course the sheetrock also becomes another barrier in terms of keeping the air, the warm air that holds a lot of moisture inside the space and not in the fiberglass where there would be a problem. So, you know, we're getting there. I think we should probably, before we get too far, take a look at a couple other things we got going on upstairs still in this building. Okay, so I think, being as I've got nothing else to do today, we might as well throw some foam up just so we get started, because the sooner we get started, the sooner we get finished. That's the way that works. And so I just got a couple of pieces of foam here. Now this stuff is wet. It was stored outdoors and it's got a little bit of wetness to it. Doesn't matter. It's going to dry. We're only going to put a single layer up today. And I'm just going to start by going up at the top here, so I'm not going to be in the way of my wiring, my rewiring, or any additional wiring I'm going to do. And I'm using an 1.5 inch roofing nail, nice big head, and you can see here just 2 nails is holding that up. This is a one-man operation. I've got some 1-inch nails mixed in there, which aren't going to do the trick. But what we want to do is certainly fix this securely. Probably nail about every 1.5 or 2 feet, and just tack it on every stud. Now that's a 1-inch nail, but we can just get away with 1 inch, just dimple that a little bit, and we're okay. Now that nail is penetrating maybe 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch into the stud, and that's adequate for holding that in place, because we're going to go over this again with a second layer of foam later on, not right now. And I think we could probably even sneak a second one up here and not interfere with our outlets. Sure we can. So let's, you can't see it, but we are in very close quarters here between TV camera lights and the rest of it. You know, this stupid television show really messes up, slows me down. That's okay. All right, and we just put another one up. Now we're just butting them together. I'm not even worried about where the end is. You see the end is not falling on a stud. I don't care. Let's just, we don't want to have a big gap there if we can avoid it, but we're just going to tack this up. And we can sort of visually see where the studs are as we work our way down, so we can just eyeball it. Not much to this, really. That's why I like doing it. It's very simple, it's mindless. And if I can get away from work for a little while and just pound nails into foam, I am happy. Because it gives me a feeling of great satisfaction, and I don't have to think very much. Now we're going to put one more here. Now you see where this is right in the middle. Some people just get all freaked out over this. I don't, because I don't care. I just butt the end together. This is foam. It's got some rigidity to it. We get a nail in there. I'm hung up on a... I used to work with wireless mics, and we would get all kinds of interference, so I work with a wired mic, and that always gets me stuck somewhere. But so you can see here now that overlaps, and the question is, Tom, what do we do about that? We got something there that's overlapped. Well, the foam is strong enough that it's going to support itself. And when we do the next layer of foam, guess what we're going to do? We're going to start from the bottom first of all. So if you look here, you know, we've gone down, we're still above the outlets, but the next row we'll have done all the wiring and bump the outlets out a bit, and we will start with the first sheet off the floor like this, and we're going to overlap here by 4 inches or so, and we'll probably start with half sheets or stagger this so we will not be, we'll have all the joints offset. So even if we did no sealing, we did no caulking of this final layer we're going to put up, it would still be pretty airtight because there's not much of a gap here. There is a gap. You could see it here. You could see it here. On the final layer, we're going to caulk that gap. But on top of that, we're going to have sheetrock, which is going to be 4 by, this is about 5 feet high, 4 by 5 and a couple inches sheets of sheetrock, which will also offset wherever our joints are. So as we build these layers, we're making this wall tighter. And of course, the tighter it is, the less air leaks in or out, and that's a good thing. And I can tell you, this space, it's you know, it's autumn now, but this space is absolutely unbearable in the summertime because it's a black roof, the heat transmits right through. We were planning on re-roofing and putting a foam on the outside and steel roofing, but the landlord changed his mind, and that's okay. Now when we go up here, we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except now you can see here we're overlapping the wall foam, and just with a little bit of eyeballing. Did I get that in the right spot? No. Let's go over about an inch. We got it. 2 nails, and it's up. And I kick everything on the floor. And if you mess up a little bit and you don't get it exactly where it's supposed to be, it's not the end of the world because the foam is soft enough that you can slide it around a bit. Excuse me. Now, I'm going to go with 3 nails on each rafter here because we're doing 2 things. We're obviously need to hold the insulation up, but the insulation is pushing back the fiberglass and actually supporting it. We may actually strap over the insulation, not with furring, not with lathe like this, but with actual furring strips to get the to give us a nice surface for hanging our sheetrock. It's really important to me that when I come in here to put sheetrock up, I have as easy a job as possible. I don't like making any more work for myself than I need to. I guess I'm not that industrious that I want to make work harder than it needs to be. It's hard enough getting this job started and getting it finished. But by putting the strapping on this, putting a layer of strapping over the foam, although we lose 3/4 of an inch, we're going to bump in 3/4 of an inch further. That's not a big deal. I mean, this is it's 8 foot up here. When we go to put the sheetrock up, we've got 2.5 inch width of furring strip that we can screw or nail our sheetrock right to, and it's on this side. It's a little bit of a crapshoot here. The stud is here, or the rafter is here, and the studs are here. But if you miss it, you have now, when you're putting up the sheetrock, what have you done? You got to undo the fastener. Usually you're fighting to hold the stuff up in the air if it's up here. But more importantly, you've made a hole all the way through. Now, is it a big deal? Absolutely not, because it's going to be mudded eventually and it's going to be tight. But it's still a puncture in your thermal barrier. So by putting strapping, we eliminate that as a problem or a potential compromise. So that's not bad. We covered, 40 square feet in a matter of moments on TV here. I guess we might as well put this last piece up because we're right here. You can use, you may see these, these are not official insulation caps, but they make a lot of different variations on the theme. This is a plastic cap that spreads out the load, the ability for this to carry the load better. But it's not really necessary for this foam. All we need to do is get a roofing nail. If you were using a sheetrock screw, you definitely have to have some kind of a washer. You know, maybe you could use a fender washer. It doesn't have to be a fender washer. It could be a cap like this. But a sheetrock screw by itself, especially overhead, the foam is going to pull through. A head that big, excuse me, that's a roofing nail. God, I keep getting stuck on this. We have there was a lot of scrap wood up here. And a lot of it's molding. I'm not sure what we want to do with it yet. I think a lot of it's going to make wonderful kindling wood, but some of it is probably useful for some trim. I'm not sure how Spartan this office space is going to be yet, but if we've got enough molding, it seems like we could trim out around windows, doors, and maybe, geez, maybe we could even have baseboards. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, so here we are. Look how much we got done. We're almost down to the end of the wall here. What do we got? Another couple of feet. I have to stop here because we have this light switch that I need to figure out where it goes to. I think there's lights on the back side here, but we can get a lot done, and I'm just going to keep picking at this. This kind of project, you know, I find when it comes to doing a big project like this, if I just take it in little bits. Now I'm at work. If I could steal a half hour around lunchtime and come up here and throw up a couple of pieces of foam, you know, within a week of a half hour, maybe an hour a day, 2 half-hour shots where I just come up here and throw up some foam or throw in some boxes, I can get pretty far along to having this closed in. Again, with R14 additional foam here, technically, if you were doing the arithmetic, if we count what's out here as bona fide insulation, and it kind of is, it's going to be drafty. We'll fasten this again. This would be in series with this in terms of heat loss. So in theory, we should have about R30 here. I think in reality, what we're going to do is fit insulation in the back of this cavity later on. No big rush. If we get R14 up here and this is somewhat tempered out here, we're okay. And we'll get done, and next thing you know, I'll have 500 square feet of office space that we did not have before, with windows we can look outside and watch the weather turn to snow and dark and ice and winter. But we'll be warm. Anyway, we got to go because we're out of time. Next week, we will have more done. Something, I'm not quite sure what will be done, but it'll be more than it is right now, which is 5 pieces of foam. So, see you next week. Yes, we'll be ready for winter. We will be. I keep telling myself that. Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems.